I know you didn't. Anyway, let's stop being, well, not let's stop being racist, considering.
Let's continue with the other racism we had before. Let us continue with the other racism that we had before.
Alright,
First,
what's Consuelo? Remember, he's Australian. What's basis for it?
Yes.
So you're Australian Consuelo.
Crikey, what is he doing here?
Consuelo demanded as he strode along the path, like a man with demons of hell after him.
Why did he have to come?
Gabriella? Gabriella skipped a step to keep up with him. Raoul's an old family friend. Of course he would be here.
I want to be Australian. But the way he was touching you, like he owned you, like he meant something to you, you let him touch you?
We grew up together, Consuelo. Our two families were practically inseparable, at least until I was 12 years of age. The last time I saw him was at our parents' funerals. Of course there's some feeling between us. He's like a brother to me. He looked her across her suddenly, his eyes wild and frantic, and she wondered what else must be troubling him to overreact in this way.
And that's all he is to you?
But of course, she said, wanting to soothe, but mostly because there was nothing else she could say, even if she might so foolishly have once dreamed of more. He wrapped his arm round her shoulders and tugged her close to his body.
Hug you.
She needed to be hugged, but she wondered why this contact didn't stir her blood or warm
Stirring
her
the blood.
as much as Raoul had done, as Raoul's touch had done. Perhaps because she saw more of him, or because he was more familiar to her, more comfortable to be around. She shouldn't encourage him. She knew he wanted more out of their relationship than she could ever commit to him right now. But today she was glad to have someone to hold on to, even if his touch didn't stir her like her mother's. She shuddered now with memory of it, of just how the gentle touch of Raoul's fingertips had set her blood fizzing. Probably should take some antiacids for that.
Fizzing and skipping. This is a woman with medical problems.
How's that possible? A man
Well,
she
considering
hasn't...
she's Jewish, she's probably quite a hypochondriac anyway.
Yeah. A man she hasn't met other than in her dreams for so many years. Or had she just wished and hoped for it so much she believed it had happened? But then he'd always had that impact on her. It always seemed larger than life. and she'd always been drawn to his dark mystery. And I know you're after my dark mystery.
After your dark mystery.
Why should it be any different now, simply because a dozen years have passed? How do you know Raoul? She asked, curious as he hastened her towards the waiting car. Is he one of the Foundation's benefactors? He laughed, a short, derisive laugh.
Ha! Ha! Him? No, he would not give to a charity such as ours, not even to save the lives of sick children.
Why do you say that? You even asked him?
I not bother with his sort. His kind have no heart.
No, Consuelo, she protested, remembering back, thinking that Raoul had the biggest heart of anyone she knew. Nothing had been too much trouble for him back then. Nothing too much effort for his family and hers. And when the police had called that fateful evening with the shocking news, it had been Raoul who had cradled her. Oh yeah. Letting her cry her eyes out, offering her the remnants of his own shattered heart. That cannot be right.
And you not know him very well after all? Come.
Done.
Of course, I must say everything has to be a question.
Yeah, so he said, opening her car door so that she could precede him into the vehicle.
Forget it? Forget Raoul? There are more important things to think about right now?
I think you're getting him confused up with the Valley's accent.
Really?
Yeah, because you can have an accent like that. It goes flat at the end of every sentence.
No, it's a rising inflection.
Well,
The end of every sentence. That's it, we're watching Neighbours in a minute to find out what happens.
But remember, it's a neighbor. It's the Hill Valley accent that goes at the end of every sentence. Remember the Australian accent. It's like this big beastie over here. It goes flat.
Do you remember the science videos we watched in biology?
Yeah, questions like that.
Cardiac muscles.
But even if it's a single word, it goes down. They turn
No,
even
no,
single.
no, go on.
It goes down. Like, it goes up or down. It doesn't ever stay level.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair
It
enough.
goes
Fair enough.
It goes
Oh.
No, it's not oh. It's It goes that after every sentence.
Come.
No, it's cow.
Cow.
Anyway, so
And you do not know him very well after all.
He tapped the waiting driver on the shoulder.
He tapped that.
He tapped that so hard to let him know that they were ready.
Like arranging for your things to move from the house into my apartment. Given you're on leave, it'll be the perfect time.
She blinked, momentarily stunned. Where had that come from? What are you talking about? What you talking about, Castillo? But he was engrossed in the traffic, scanning it, almost as if he was looking for someone. Raoul?
No.
Raoul!
Raoul?
Surely he was a long way behind. And then he turned back to her, smiling, and she wondered if she had imagined his nervousness.
Come on, darling. Now that your grandfather's gone, there's no reason why we should live apart any longer.
We haven't talked about it. He took one hand in one of his, patted it with the other. Come, Gabby. Oh no, it's yours.
Come, Gabby? You know as well as I do that half the reason you haven't moved in already is because your grandfather needed you. Now there's no reason for us to be apart. Listen, now it's time you were looked after the way you should be, the way I want to look after you.
She shook her head. Consuelo!
Of course, I could always move in with you, but I thought you might prefer a fresh start. Might prefer a fresh start somewhere without the memories.
I like where I live, she said, stiffening, and wondering what she had said or done to make him think she was ready to move in with him. And my grandfather's barely gold in his grave. I would actually prefer not to have to deal with this today. He sighed and lifted a hand to his lips, although his eyes lacked any warmth to go with it.
I'm sorry, Gabby? I'm watching. Of course we can talk later.
Much later, she thought, clutching her coat at her neck, and wondering what it was that was throwing Consuelo so off kilter today. He was so very anxious as he resumed his busy scanning of the traffic. They were almost at the hotel when Consuelo's phone buzzed again. He pulled it from his pocket, with it out,
and held it to his ear.
Gabriella looked across, wondering if it was Philippa again, wanting to know how far away they were. But even as she watched the colour drain from Consuelo's face.
Mierda? Shit, in Spanish.
I know. He said, before he snapped it off and shoved it away, tapping the driver.
Stop here. Let me out here.
Consuelo, what's wrong? She asked the driver. Cut across 2 lanes of traffic, with a squeal of tyres and the blare of horns, double parked on the side of the road. Who was that? But he was already climbing out.
A problem at the office. I have to go.
And then he slammed the door and disappeared into the crowd. Priest's words were moving. The condolences she received from old friends and associates heartfelt, and Gabriella felt one kind of peace descend on her soul. Grandfather had touched so many lives, and it was clear it wasn't just her who would be left with an Umberto-sized hole in her heart.
You know what?
Heart. Pass. But now the wake was winding down, and she felt suddenly deflated with it. Maybe Raoul.
She's a bottom.
She turned her phone onto silent, hoping that she might get some news from Consuelo, some kind of explanation. There had been no messages explaining the sudden disappearance or when he might join her. She was beginning to think he wouldn't make it at all. And maybe she could have lived with that if Raoul had bothered to turn up, like he promised. She had hoped he'd soon follow them from the cemetery. From the very first minute she stepped into the hotel's plush reception room, she'd been anticipating his
I'll step into her plush reception room.
She'd been anticipating his arrival, scanning the room for a hint of his broad, dark-clad shoulders, or a glimpse of his blue-black hair.
He's an anime character.
She longed for the dark solidity of his presence. She longed for the comfort she had found at the cemetery, a comfort she yearned for now. He had promised he'd come. She ached with wanting him to come.
Oh dear.
So where was he? Philippa appeared at her side. Oh, this is Brian Blessed.
Oh, you better do it then. I can't do Grand Blessed.
Philippa appeared at her side and put a hand on her shoulder. How are you bearing up? The men always let you down, she mused as she stared blankly into a cold cup of coffee in her hands. As she stared blankly into a cold cup of coffee in her hands that she battled to remember picking up. First Umberto, her grandfather, who had taken in as a grieving 12-year-old, had been both mother. Wait, hold on,
Start the sentence again.
First Umberto, the grandfather who had taken her in as a grieving 12-year-old and been both mother and father to her, was gone. Then Consuelo, who couldn't even stop thinking about his foundation for just one day, disappeared to who knew where and for how long. And now Raoul, who she'd lost before she'd even found again. Hey, don't worry, said Philippa. You know how he is, she continued, only seeing one side to Gabriella's concern. A friend squeezed her hand as she prized the neglected cut from her fingers. Oh, hold on.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's fine.
No, I'll keep an eye on it for you.
The foundation is everything to him. He got caught up in something, that's all. And for the record, men don't always let you down. Not all of them, at any rate.
That sounds like something his mother would say.
I'm sorry, she said, remembering Philippa's gorgeous husband. Yeah, I think that's right.
Should we freeze it?